Kellyanne Conway, counselor to President Trump, joins us live. Kellyanne, good morning to you.
Hey, Kellyanne.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so this anonymous, who is it?
I have no idea. I think the person probably wasn't banking on the fact that he or she would be so ridiculed, if not excoriated, right, left, and center at this point, because you even see Democratic members of Congress, right, left-wing liberals out there saying, hey, this is no way to express your opinion. Come forward, put your authorship on it. Lots of folks upset with the New York Times in the media who are saying, well, it better be somebody really super senior or else they would not have granted anonymity. I don't know who it is. I just know their type, and their type is very unimpressive. Somebody who doesn't have the moxie, the courage. No, somebody doesn't have the courage to come forward and say, this is my opinion. This is how I feel. And I think in large part because they don't have firsthand knowledge of what they're writing. This is not the president I know as described. This is not the decision maker and leader that I'm around every single day. There are those of us who are here because we believe in the president's agenda and we respect the fact that he is executing on it every day under these circumstances to boot. The accomplishments of this president in the first 20 months would be impressive by any measure. But under the constant assault and attack that we all absorb, they're that much more remarkable. Everywhere I go in this country, and these are not pro-Trump or pro-Republican curated audiences necessarily, everywhere I go, people stop me. Even people who did not vote for Donald Trump for president and say, just keep going. Ignore the slights, ignore the insults. And look, when it comes to this person, too, I said it yesterday, I'll say it again. Cowards are like criminals. They eventually suss out themselves because they eventually confess or brag to the wrong person. And I suspect that's what will happen here as well. But I think the president should do what he does every day. Come to work, improve the economy. You can't argue with the jobs, the labor, the wage numbers, the explosive deregulation that's happening, the growth that's happening. As the president tweeted this morning, the unemployment rate is now lower than the GDP. We were promised a global recession. We got prosperity. We had 2% anemic growth under the last president who's trying to take credit. This president's presiding over 4% and more, talking about tax cuts 2.0, renegotiating trade deals so they're not so unfair and imbalanced. The Secretary of Labor this morning tweeted out that there are 100,000 mining and logging jobs created. Those kind of jobs, along with construction, manufacturing, may not matter to the ubiquitous millionaire media anchors in mainstream TV, but boy, do they matter, the forgotten man or forgotten woman. Hey, by the way, I was so excited this weekend. Did you notice? We finally found a Democrat who thinks the economy is doing well under President Trump, President Obama.
That's right.
We found a Democrat.
Yeah, but it
he
started
doesn't
with
understand
him.
his party's messaging. But it's so funny to me because his Democrats in the party are saying the economy's not doing well. We have to improve the economy. The economy's not doing well. The tax cut hasn't benefited the 7 million Americans who got bonuses or raises or both. The corporate tax rate going from 35 to 21 and unleashing the repatriation of trillions of dollars of wealth.
Kellyanne,
and all of a sudden, President Obama wants credit for the economy the Democrats say don't really exist. It's pretty funny.
Well, yeah, we're going to play a soundbite from him, too, because he's done a video, not only 2 campaign appearances, but he's got a video out. But I just want to ask you, Nikki Haley had an editorial out saying that she disagrees with the president, but she tells the president to his face, and she's proud to serve for this administration. What are your thoughts about that? Is that something that gets approved by the White House? Were you guys okay with that?
Well, Ambassador Haley made a few comments that I know to be true every single day. She's absolutely right when she says this is a president who welcomes, he accepts, if not expects, dissenting points of view, disagreement. He has people talking about trade and tariffs, for example, who are on differing sides of the trade spectrum. He has folks who have different opinions on the Second Amendment, on abortion, on the border adjustability tax, on whether to do the corporate tax cut from 35% to 15 to 20 to 21. He is somebody who takes the counsel of many different advisors and then weighs the different consequences and options and knows exactly that he is the only one, he and Mike Pence in this building, the only 2 people who are elected to anything, and he makes the ultimate decision here. That's what leadership does. Leadership doesn't shut the door and just sit there, toss a coin in the air or say, this is what I promised the campaign trail, I must do it. Absolutely, exactly. So, this is somebody who takes the counsel, who feels free and comfortable enough in his job to do that and then makes a decision on his own.
So you were okay with that? The White House was okay with the editorial?
I'm telling you that there are parts of the editorial, I read it once, and there are parts that ring true to me, which is he also has a cabinet, and Ambassador Haley's in the cabinet, of people who are able to come to him and say, Mr. President, you've asked us to execute on this. Here's the progress report. Here's what we've been able to do. Here's what we can't do yet. Here's the vision in the future. And by the way, often in these cabinet meetings, the press is in the room when many of those reports are happening. They don't want to cover it, but the American people can find it online. I'm sure we have it on whitehouse.gov if they want to access the president's relationship with his own cabinet and what those subject matter experts are doing to help the American people.
Kellyanne, you said over the weekend that the president doesn't want that person in a meeting where he's discussing China and Russia and North Korea. You said any president should have the comfort and the freedom to speak with his national security team. You've been with this president since the beginning. After this anonymous op-ed was written, has it changed? Have your meetings with the president, has it changed? Because he's always probably wondering who's in this room, who wrote that anonymous op-ed.
Well, I think under Chief of Staff John Kelly, the meetings have gotten tighter and smaller already. And that's for a number of reasons. I just think it's better to have the people who have visibility into the issue, as I just said, the subject matter experts, and a few others in these particular meetings. And when they need to be expanded, then maybe that's an issue that will be looked into. But I also I'm not convinced. I have no reason one way or the other, but I'm just not convinced this is a true senior level official or a senior White House official. I have no way of knowing one way or the other, but I would imagine if the New York Times could have said senior White House official, they would have.
Right.
I could be wrong, but so I'm not really sure this is somebody who gets his or her information about the president except from cable TV or a few memos that are in the system or a principal coming back from a meeting and relating one or two anecdotes. Those of us who have the privilege of serving at the highest levels in this White House or in this government, we take our responsibility seriously. And those who don't, get out today, because you should be named, blamed, and shamed for not having the courage to come forward. By the way, if the stated intention of the op-ed was to be patriotic, the person is just pathetic. As I said, they're being slammed right, left, and center. I hope they don't get the hero's welcome as soon as they're sussed out and revealed. I hope people see this person for who he or she is, which is somebody who is not willing to face, the cross-examination of cable TV, if you will. In other words, you feel this way, well, tell us why, or be specific. And you even see folks anonymously, some on the record in the Woodward book. I think the main problem in that book is the two-person conversations that are being related without the second person ever being consulted. Right. Did you say this? Is it true? So you now have Governor Chris Christie, Mayor Rudy Giuliani, Ivanka Trump told me to tell everybody, me. Others are part of the two-party conversation where we're not asked, did you in fact say this? So there are some people who just want to sit with authors all day long and they end up getting free rein. I don't expect that Bob Woodward himself would have checked the facts, but how about a fact checker in some of these publishing houses? This is probably the fourth or fifth book in a row where folks aren't necessarily checking the facts with the people who have the quotes attributed to them.
Well, he stands by it. He says people from the White House did say that, but who knows who those people are? They might just have an axe to grind. Kellyanne, thank you very much for joining us live.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Mike Pence calling out the anonymous official who penned the scathing New York Times op-ed.
It's un-American, and I think that's why you've seen Republicans and Democrats condemn this. The American people vote for a president. They fully expect the president to be able to surround themselves with men and women who will work with them in advancing their agenda.
The vice president even saying he would submit a lie detector test to prove he wasn't the author. So is that what it's going to take to find out who wrote it? Here now to debate is Democratic strategist Mac Burns and New York City Councilman Joe Borelli. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
How far do you think the administration goes to try and figure this out, Max?
I think a lie detector test, unfortunately, requires a pulse, which Mike Pence might find a little difficult. But it's stunning to see this machine break down in such spectacular fashion. I mean, the president, had it been Obama, would have been investigated immediately by Congress if an op-ed had come out that was anything like the one we've seen.
Perhaps a little bit much to say there about the vice president, I would think. Joe, what do you think?
I think the vice president is very competent, and the Trump administration is doing a pretty darn good job giving all the results we're seeing. That said, I think you're going to see a pretty significant investigation, whether criminal or not. I mean, we just don't know whether this is someone in the military hierarchy or in the DOJ affecting investigations. But even still, there should be a significant internal investigation. If somebody was spitting in the hamburgers, whether it's White Castle or the White House, the manager's going to want to know who it is so we can weed it out.
Yeah, I mean, mean, Max, do you disagree that the American public deserves to know who's saying this?
No, I absolutely agree. I think the proper venue for this would have been Congress, the Judiciary Committee. But because this Congress is so complicit in propping up this administration, there are so few avenues left for actually airing concerns and letting people know the truth.
Joe, is this a matter of national security when you have someone in the White House who's saying these things, who wants to remain anonymous when, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people in the American public sit there and think, if we're going to be successful here in this administration and we want the country to succeed, why are you trying to undermine what the president is doing for us?
Well, even play devil's advocate. If you don't like President Trump and you don't think what he's doing is right, you still want to judge him fairly. And in order to do that, you have to assume that his policies are being carried out, full. The Constitution gives executive power wholly and unilaterally to the President of the United States, not his staff. This is not something that any president prior to him has ever had to have. And this is something that needs to be eliminated and eradicated.
Yeah, and it's okay. Look, I mean, people on all sides of the aisle have been at a place at some point in history where somebody hasn't liked the president, right? It's okay for you to have a difference of opinion about who's in the White House. But the thing is, Max, and I want to get your take on what I just said, is it a matter of national security when you have people in the White House undermining what the president is trying to do for the people who elected him, who put him in there?
I think there's absolutely one president at a time, and the last thing we need is a bunch of shadow presidents deciding what policy is. What concerns me is someone like Senator Jeff Flake has said that he gets news like this 3 or 4 times a week, and it's shocking that the response to someone claiming there's a security risk and the president is endangering the country is for Jeff Flake to shrug his shoulders and say, yeah, that sounds right, and then hold no investigations and no oversight into these incredibly disturbing claims.
Well, I'd be surprised if we don't find out who it is at some point. Who knows if we really do find out? Who knows how long that will take? But Max and Joe, we appreciate it.
Thanks.